Welcome to Local SEO in 10. This is your go-to podcast for answers about how you can grow your local business online easily and quickly. Brought to you by local SEO experts Magnified Media in Walnut Creek, California. In each 10-minute episode, our digital marketing expert Adam Duran answers your questions on how you can get more leads for your business fast. Remember, if you're not taking care of this part of your business right now, you can bet your competitors are. And now, here's our host with the questions, Jamie Duran, and our expert with the answers, Adam Duran.
Hello, Adam.
Hey, Jamie.
All right. How's your week going?
It's going good. Getting a little overcast. Rain is threatening here in Northern California after it's got to be, 3 months, 4 months since we've had rain. I mean, I think we had one sprinkle for like 10 minutes. Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, it's we kind of made it through fire season, though, without not all of California was on fire.
Yeah, we had Northern California had, I think, the third largest fire in its history. So not the biggest.
But it wasn't sustained. It wasn't a whole week after week after week. We have another.
Correct. It's just a couple weeks. Yep. Anyway, today I have a great episode, a great topic for us and it's actually one that I'm surprised we haven't done earlier.
Okay.
Are you ready? Okay.
Yep.
So this one is inspired by a client who came to us, a video production company down in Los Angeles, and they focus on the B2B space. And when they came to us, we did an audit, of course, of their online presence. And the first thing that we're going to look at when we check out a company's online presence is we're going to look at their website. And we found something that is always horrifying, Jamie. Guess what that is? Yep. Squarespace.
Okay.
Now, if you clicked on this episode to hear about the benefits of Squarespace for your local business, I got some bad news coming for you. Because when we look at a website that's on Squarespace, we shudder. Okay. I know maybe you've heard on other podcasts, hey, Squarespace is your website solution for blah, blah, blah. Anyway, unfortunately, they're not a sponsor, so I can kick them and tell you why. All right.
Straight talk.
That's right. We deal with local SEO. So our listeners have local businesses and they're trying to outrank their competition. Now, one of the largest ranking factors, or actually one of the most important things you want to think about when you're trying to look at your website and your online presence is you don't have to compete with everyone in the whole country. You only have to compete with your local competition. So if your local competition is all on Squarespace, great. You don't really have to do a whole lot to outrank them, right? You can use Squarespace is my point. Now, if they aren't, however, now you're going to have a problem. So Squarespace has a bunch of inherent, intrinsic problems with it that we can't seem to get around. When we have a client on Squarespace, we do our best to rank them, and we can do it as long as their competition is not super advanced. So today I'm going to tell you briefly why you should probably stay away from Squarespace, especially if you're at the beginning of your business. I know it's very tempting because it is kind of a drag and drop system. It is pretty like you can customize some things. You can, do all the colors and all that stuff, of course. So it can be pretty enticing because the learning curve is not so high, not so tough. But there are some inherent problems that once you're on that road, it's going to be really tough to make a change. So if you're at the beginning parts of deciding what you're going to use, I'll let you know some reasons why you probably want to have another resource. Okay?
Okay. Yep.
All right. So first thing, one of the most important things about local ranking is something called schema. And we've done podcasts that mention schema and that go deep into schema. But what you should know about schema is it is the language on the back end of your website that speaks directly to search engines. So what that means is when that search engine, that bot scans your website, it indexes your site, it's not just looking at the words on your screen as a human and the images and stuff like that. It's looking at, it first wants to scan for the information behind those images and that text. And where that lies is the best place for it is schema, because then that robot doesn't have to guess, because every part of schema tells it exactly what it needs to know, and there's no vague part of that. It's very straightforward. So you can have schema that tells Google and other search engines you are a local business. You can tell it, hey, my service area is this radius. My business is located at this longitude and latitude on a map. You can tell it virtually hundreds of things about your business. And when we're thinking about a robot, basically all that robot is trying to do is put you in a box. So that way, when someone searches for your service, is in your service area, and wants to do business with you, that box can easily be given to them. And that box, of course, is your website. Make sense?
Yep. Makes
All right.
sense.
So unfortunately, with Squarespace, they only give you very, 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 very basic parts of schema. So instead of having 150, 200 fields, it gives you about 5. So it'll give you your name, your address, your phone number, and email. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
So that's brutal, especially so a lot of ranking you want to think about is that crawl budget. So Google has to allocate that budget to crawl a website. And if it needs to get all of that information in a certain amount of time, the longer it takes to get that information, the less it's going to come to your website, the more mistakes it's going to kick off because it doesn't understand, and it just doesn't help you rank. So anytime you make that system, you don't give it the information it needs, or you give it bad information or vague information, then it's always going to lower your ranking, because the businesses that do that correctly, it's a great ranking factor for them. Okay?
Yep. Makes
All right.
sense.
Next thing that I have a problem with is the heading structure. So we've also talked about heading structure before. So basically, heading structure is how you organize and label different sections of a web page using headings. So think of a heading as you're writing an outline for your essay. So a heading can help, or does help, that search engine understand what your content is about and how it's structured. So super important, because when that bot indexes your site, it's going, 1,000,000 miles an hour, actually way faster than that, which is crazy, but it's going really fast, and it's got to understand what you do, who you serve, and how you serve, all that kind of stuff very, very quickly. And so if your heading structure is incorrect, so say, for example, we've done episodes on heading structure, please refer to those, but quickly, if you have a heading 1, that's usually the largest font on that website for humans. Many times, or most of the time, we only want one heading 1 per page. So it tells Google what that page is about. If it's a service page, if it's your home page, if it's your blog, that kind of thing, that's the largest thing on that page. But sometimes you don't want that heading 1 to be the largest thing on your page. Humans have to also interact with your website. And if for some reason, if stylistically, if it doesn't look right, you'll have people who use Squarespace try and change around and mix up those heading sizes. And when you do that, you're messing with the structure of the information on that page. And so now you're making it confusing for that robot. So that's really tough in Squarespace, because you can't change those sizes very easily. You have to actually start coding them. And then when you do start coding them, it leads to my next problem. Guess what that is, Jamie?
Computer shuts down and Skynet takes over, and we're run over by an army of Terminators.
Almost. We're almost there.
Okay. I know.
Yeah. Don't hold your breath. No, the next thing is with Squarespace, you're going to have to do, you have 3 different versions of your site. You have your desktop version, your tablet version, and your mobile version. So when you change things coding-wise to make them look good on a desktop, you also have to do individual coding for each of those other sizes. And that is where the brutality comes in. because now you have, when you do that, the human part of this design of your website suffers, because every one of those elements now needs to be individually coded. And that means across your site. And it can get really, really tough, because sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes the next browser that you try just goes and freezes, or just shrugs its shoulders and then throws it back, and it can get really tough. And so that's really, 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 really a frustrating experience to go through for anyone who's had to do this. So that's another reason. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to go quickly down to my last one, and that's the slow speeds that are inherent in these all-in-one platforms. Wix suffers from this. Squarespace definitely suffers from this. But basically, when you go with Squarespace, you're paying for a hosting service and a website. And so it's all integrated, which is great. But what it does, it locks you down to their hosting service, and that means their speed. The speed of a typical Squarespace website, very, very slow, and there's not really a whole lot you can do about it because it's at the server level. If your site is based on WordPress, you have now available to you 500, 1,000 different web hosting platforms that you can choose from. And then many of those will also include email in their charge to you. So all of these things allow you to go kind of price shopping and speed shopping, which is super, super nice to do. Once you're in Squarespace, that's it. You've got slow speed, tough with the headings, tough with the schema. Also, just in 2 other tips, it's difficult to add any specialty widgets. Like say you have a pricing widget, or you have something that does some kind of calculation. It's very tough to get those to act properly in every situation. So those are the big ones that make me, if you're at this stage where you're thinking about starting your business and thinking about starting a website, then go do yourself a favor down the road. Just go to WordPress. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. And how is it for e-commerce?
Not that good.
Oh,
so
I heard on one of your favorite podcasts.
Yes.
All right. Well,
not good for
a sponsor. You don't want to the hammer.
So these factors do make sense, or do have an impact in your e-commerce sites. If you're a nationwide, if you're nationwide and not even just a local business, site speed super important, schema super important, heading structure super important. It's just that when we're looking at the local space, we're looking at our competition that's currently, and we're also, of course, thinking about overtaking and then taking over that whole area. Way easier to do on a platform like WordPress that it has all of these benefits to it. So all the things that I mentioned here in WordPress are just they're taken care of. So you have the options to do them, and as long as your design team is educated, maybe they're a podcast listener, then you're not going to have a problem doing that.
All right, Adam, that was a really good episode. We really appreciate all of the information about Squarespace and your favorite podcast that promotes it constantly. So, but very, very helpful. And for anyone out there that is starting a website, sounds like Adam has some recommendations that aren't Squarespace. So if you do know someone who has a Squarespace account or website, might be worth sending them this podcast and sharing this podcast so they can learn about how to maximize their investment into their website and get the most out of it, because obviously they want to get the most out of it. So, and if you belong to a networking group or a chamber of commerce, you can share this podcast around. It certainly helps anyone who has a website, and there's tons and tons of online businesses. And if you enjoyed this topic or any of the other topics, go ahead and give us 5 stars wherever you're listening to this. And then if you have a question about this topic, go to our website, magnifiedmedia.net, click on the podcast button, and go ahead and search for that term. And if it is there, great. There's probably 3 or 4 podcasts there. And if not, feel free to go to our Facebook or LinkedIn page, Local SEO in 10, send us a message, and we will try to get back to it in a get to that topic in an upcoming podcast. So with that, we will sign off. Talk to you later. And thank you very much for listening. Thanks, Adam. Talk to you later.
That's all for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of Local SEO in 10 with Google local marketing expert Adam Duran. Join us each week for answers to your questions on how to best harness the power of the internet to grow your business. Speaking of questions, got some? Message us through our Facebook page, Local SEO in 10, and we'll be sure to give you your answer on an upcoming episode. This episode of Local SEO in 10 is brought to you by Magnified Media, the leading online marketing agency in Northern California, who invite you to grow your business by magnifying your online visibility and credibility. Visit them on the web at www.magnifiedmedia.com. Magnify your business, magnify your profits.